This is the time of year where everyone starts creating New Year's resolutions, or at least I do. And there's a bunch of different types of resolutions you can actually create. There's financial resolutions, personal progress, mental, physical, whatever it might be. And in today's video, I want to go over what I believe are some of the best financial and personal New Year's resolutions that you can create to get your life on track for 2026 or whatever year we are entering. Now, S tier are going to actually make your life easier if you can stick to them, and F tier are just the ones that give you an illusion of progress that you're not actually gaining anything from. Now, I do want to say, I personally believe that any resolution you can actually stick to will be the best. A lot of people create New Year's resolutions and never actually stick to them. So any of these that you decide to do that I would say are B tier and higher that you can actually stick to, that is already a win in my book. But let's go ahead, let's get into the video and start talking about each one of these. So first on the list, we have trying to increase income. This is probably one of the most common New Year's resolutions that people who are financially motivated make. And obviously it's for good reason. You know, more income is going to give all of us more breathing room. And let's be honest, things are just getting more expensive. More income will also make everything easier, right? It'll make saving easier, investing, it'll make it faster and easier, and just makes life less stressful. Now, the biggest pro of increasing your income is going to increase leverage. So unlike cutting expenses, there's technically no ceiling on how much money you can earn, right? So you can get a raise, you can get a better job, you can work overtime, or you can, get that side hustle that starts making you some money. All of that can stack really quickly. Now, another benefit with making more money is momentum. When your income goes up, you can accelerate every other financial goal without feeling like you're restricting yourself or you're limiting your money too much. Now, obviously, the downside of increasing income is it takes effort, it takes time, and it's not guaranteed. Just because you want to try to increase your income doesn't always mean you can. So increasing income usually means learning new skills, taking risks, or just being uncomfortable for a while. It's definitely not something that comes overnight. And in my opinion, increasing income only really works best when you pair it with good money habits. Because if you increase your income and you have terrible money habits, it's actually not going to benefit you in any way, shape, or form. So for me, when it comes to increasing income, or at least trying to increase your income, I'm going to put this in the A tier. I think it's very beneficial, but I know it's something that, if we're just being honest, not all of us are going to be able to do in the new year. And it's something we can try to do, but maybe not be successful with it. Next up on the list is overplanning. Now, people might have a New Year's resolution to be more organized or to plan things out a little bit more. And overplanning, or planning in general can sound productive, but sometimes it can actually hold people back. When you overplan, you basically spend more time thinking, spend more time organizing and preparing than actually doing anything or taking any action, right? So you might think, well, I'm not going to create my budget until I find the perfect spreadsheet. Or I'm not going to start waking up early until I optimize the perfect routine. Or I'm not going to invest until I have the perfect timing. But very little action to follow any of that plan. And the upside with planning in general is clarity, right? Planning can help you avoid obvious mistakes and feel a lot more confident starting something new. But the downside is planning paralysis. A lot of people actually use planning as a form of procrastination. I was one of these people too. They keep waiting for the perfect plan instead of taking imperfect action. And over planning also can create false progress. It feels like you're moving forward, but nothing in your life is actually changing because you're just over planning everything. So at the end of the day, planning is useful, but only up to a certain point. At some point, you are actually going to have to take action that matters more than optimization or finding the perfect plan. So that's why for me, over planning is one that just falls into the C tier. It looks productive, and for a lot of people, it seems productive, but honestly, it's probably holding you back from a lot of the action you can actually be taking. Next up on the list is creating a budget. Now, this can be your first budget, this can be creating just a new one in general, or this can be even auditing your current budget, whatever it might be. Now, you guys know a budget is basically a monthly plan, a weekly plan, even maybe a daily plan for your finances, right? It's not about restriction, it's just about awareness and control of your finances. And the biggest pro with a budget is clarity. Once you see exactly where your money is going, it becomes a lot easier to make better decisions and stop financial leaks. Another benefit too is confidence with your money. You're no longer guessing, you're no longer stressing. You know what you can spend and what you need to save, and once again, where your money's going. Now, the downside with budgeting is a lot of people tend to overcomplicate it. They make super detailed budgets that they can't stick with, they make them way too restrictive, and then they just quit because it's way too hard to follow. So a budget needs to be very flexible. Life changes, and if you don't adjust, it stops working. So creating a budget is a foundational financial habit in my opinion. It's not going to make you rich overnight, but it makes everything else possible when it comes to your finances and just gives you a better picture of where your money's going. So for that reason, for me, creating a budget, I'm going to put it in the A tier. I don't think it's going to be a necessary S tier because I know there's a lot of people who, are very good with their finances and don't have a budget. But if you don't have one or you're working on one, I think auditing it or just creating a new budget in general can definitely help you out in the new year. Next up on the list is goals that revolve only around motivation. So motivation only goals. Now, this is basically when your plan is, I'll just feel motivated and I'll figure it out, right? You have no system in place, no structure. You're just going strictly off of the motivation and you expect that to carry you through all your goals and your progress. And the upside is when you first get that hit of motivation, you feel like nothing can stop you, right? Like it gives you energy, gives you excitement, and it'll usually last for a few days. If you're lucky, maybe you'll get a week or two of motivation. The problem is motivation fades really fast. When life gets busy, when life gets noisy, all that motivation usually it's like the first thing to disappear. And the goals that are built around that motivation also disappear pretty much instantly. So relying on motivation puts your progress on something that you're just not going to be able to control. Systems are going to beat motivation every single time, whether it's habits or routines, and just automation are what actually move the needle forward and what actually give you progress in life. So that's why for me, motivation only goals are just F tier. So if you're strictly using goals based around motivation only, I'm telling you, it's one of those things that it's probably going to fade fast and you're probably not going to hit those goals you actually want to hit. You need the systems and structures in place to actually do that for when your motivation fades. Next up on the list is going to be eliminate financial leaks, and more so if you can spend this year trying to eliminate one major financial leak, right? And a financial leak is basically money leaving your account regularly without you really noticing. So that could be eating out, it can be subscriptions, it can be impulse shopping, stuff that doesn't feel big in the moment but adds up extremely fast. And the biggest pro here is impact. Cutting one major leak can free up literally hundreds of dollars a month without changing your income at all. So you're basically instantaneously giving yourself an increase in income or a raise. And another benefit is simplicity. Instead of trying to fix everything at once, you can only focus on one thing that's causing that main financial leak or doing the most damage. Now, the downside with eliminating financial leaks, and yes, there is a downside, is honesty. You have to actually look at what you're spending and admit that this thing you're spending your money on or this leak is what's actually holding you back. And for a lot of people, that's uncomfortable and they actually just won't do it in general. So this only works if you are able to cut this financial leak and be, honest with yourself about your finances and where your money is going. Because if you don't, the money's just going to leak somewhere else. And in my opinion, eliminating one financial leak can be the fastest way to create financial momentum for yourself. And the reason I'm focusing on just one major one is because let's be honest, a lot of us have multiple financial leaks on a monthly basis, whether it's subscriptions or, like I said, eating out. So if you can just focus on one and simplify your life and just cut that one out, it will make it a lot easier to actually stay on top of it. Because if you try to cut everything out all at once, it's going to feel way too overwhelming. So if you can eliminate one financial leak this year, I'm going to put that in the S tier. I truly believe this is going to make your life easier and it's going to free up some money for you pretty much instantly if you're able to do this properly. Next up, this is more of a personal goal, and this is building a sleep routine. And this is something, I'll be honest with you guys, that's on the top of my list for 2026. A sleep routine is, look, you need a consistent time you go to bed. You need a consistent time you wind down, and then you also need a consistent time that you wake up. And it doesn't have to be perfect. You don't need to wake up at 6 o'clock every morning and go to bed at 9 o'clock every night. It just needs to be somewhat consistent. And the biggest pro here is energy and discipline. When you sleep better, you just make better decisions in general, with money, with work, with habits, and then a solid sleep routine makes everything else easier, from workouts to focus and not impulse spending when you're tired or looking for, shortcuts. And another thing too is if you listen to a lot of really wealthy people, they'll always tell you the most important thing you can do for yourself is get good sleep, right? Like as humans, we need good sleep to be productive people. And the downside is it's hard. Having a good sleep routine, it requires a lot of boundaries, right? You have to say no to late nights out. You have to say no to screen time. You have to say no to random plans. And it's definitely not always easy. It can be very hard to feel like you're enjoying life, but also building a sleep routine at the same time. And the progress with a sleep routine isn't instant either. It could take a few weeks before you even feel refreshed from the new amount of sleep you're getting. But once it does, in my opinion, the return is huge. Better sleep will literally improve every area of your life. So for me, building a sleep routine, like I said, this is on the top of my list for this year to work on. I'm going to put this in the S tier. I think if all of us had a solid sleep routine that we could rely on, we'd probably be 10 times more productive. Next up on the list is meal prepping. This is something I've tried to do. I'll just be honest, I don't like meal prepped foods. I like cooking my food fresh. But basically, if you don't know what meal prepping is, it's when you plan and prepare your meals ahead of time instead of deciding what to eat every day. So like, for example, like a popular meal prep food would be like chicken, rice, and broccoli. And you make it on a Monday and you finish all your food on a Friday. So you like make food for the week. The biggest benefit usually with meal prepping is cost savings, because cooking in bulk is often way cheaper than eating out or ordering delivery. And obviously those things add up pretty quick. The biggest pro also with meal prepping is just your health. Your food's always prepared and you're more likely to eat better and feel better rather than, having cheat meals or stuff like that. Now, the biggest downside with meal prepping is just the upfront effort. Like you have to cook everything, usually Sunday night, and have it all planned out. And, usually if you want to do it properly, you got to weigh things, you got to make sure everything's, to the ounce perfect, right? Now, another problem too with meal prepping is some people also just get bored eating the same meals. And that's my biggest problem personally, is like, I just don't like eating the same meals every single day. But it's something that if you want to stick to it, I think it can benefit your health. But for me, meal prepping, I'm just going to put this in the B tier. I think it's good. I don't think it's life-changing. I don't think meal prepping will instantly make you a healthy person. But it's good, to throw into your habits if you want to get better at eating. And especially if you struggle, like let's say your biggest financial leak is eating out, meal prepping might be one of the best things you can do for yourself. So it just depends person to person. For me, it's B tier. Next up is when people buy expensive tech for progress. And the reason I'm throwing this in like a New Year's resolution is some people might say, okay, well, at the start of this year, I'm going to buy this thing or I'm going to buy this thing because it's going to get me towards my goal. And in my opinion, this is a very big financial trap that a lot of people fall into, because let's say they want to start working out more. They might say, oh, I need to buy the new Apple headphones. Or let's say they want to, get in track with a spreadsheet. They might think they need to buy the newest laptop. And it sounds kind of ridiculous, but there's a lot of people that do this, and they fall into this big financial trap because they're just upgrading tools when they're not actually upgrading their lifestyle. And, they might buy a laptop or a tablet or a camera or just a gadget, and they might play with it for a week or a month, and then they realize that this is actually not helping them progress in life at all. And a lot of times too, just like over planning, in my opinion, this creates a lot of disguised procrastination, because once again, like I mentioned, you're upgrading those tools instead of actually upgrading your life. So I get tools can support progress, but at the end of the day, you don't need to go out and buy anything to start progressing in life. So for me, when people buy expensive tech for progress, this is just an F tier. This is just an illusion of progress, right? They're telling themselves that they need these things to actually progress in life, when at the end of the day, it's probably just holding you back from taking actual action. Next up is the workout and eating plan. Now, this is another one that is at the top of my list for the new year that I really need to get better at. And this one's not about being perfect either, right? It's just about having a simple plan that you can actually follow. The biggest benefit here is obviously your health, right? If you can have a good workout plan and you can have a good eating plan, look, it doesn't matter how much money you make on this planet. If you're a multi-billionaire and you have terrible health, you're bedridden, you can't even get up and walk, what's the point of even having all that money? I would rather have little money and be in extreme perfect health than have a lot of money and be in the worst health and worst shape of my life. So workout and eating plan, it's pretty self-explanatory, right? The downside is a lot of people are just lazy. Look, I'm lazy, right? Like there's times where I don't want to work out and I don't want to eat healthy. I'd rather just sit at home, watch YouTube and get fast food, right? So that's my biggest, problem with it. And the other downside, just like a budget, is a lot of people overcomplicate it. They make it way too strict at first. They make it too detailed and just becomes unsustainable. But when it's simple and realistic, having a workout and eating plan is, once again, probably the best thing that you can do for yourself, especially in the new year, just for the rest of your life. So everything in life just gets easier when you're healthy. So for me, this is just an obvious S tier. Having a workout plan and eating plan is just going to make your life easier at the end of the day. Next up on the list is going to be building your first emergency fund, or if you already have one, sticking to it. And an emergency fund is set aside for unexpected expenses. So this can be car repairs, this can be medical bills, getting laid off of your job, whatever it might be, right? And having an emergency fund means you don't have to rely on credit cards, you don't have to rely on loans, you just have cash on hand ready to deploy in case of a rainy day. And the biggest pro here is peace of mind. Knowing that you can handle everyday surprises removes a ton of financial stress and financial anxiety. It also protects your long-term goals. So instead of pulling from investments or going into debt, you can stay on track, right? So if I have $10,000 invested and nothing in my savings, and something bad came up, I'd have to pull out of my investments. Whereas if I had money, cash on hand, I could deploy that. Now, the downside of building an emergency fund, and once again, yes, there is a downside, is that it can feel slow, right? Saving cash isn't exciting. It's not going to compound super fast, and it doesn't grow like investments do. But that's the point. This money is not for growth. This money is going to be for foundational stability. It's going to be to keep stress off your shoulders in case something bad happens. So building an emergency fund in the new year, if you don't already have one, or you do have one and you just can stick to it, this just makes your life easier, right? If you can have an emergency fund or build an emergency fund, by far one of the best things you can do for your financial foundation and just to stay on top of, feeling good about your finances. Next up is going to be the one in, one out rule. And what I mean by this is if you can apply this to your New Year's resolution to basically tone down lifestyle inflation and, kind of declutter some of your life. And this rule is very simple, right? The one in, one out rule. Basically, when you bring something new into your life, so this can be a purchase, this can be a subscription, or it can just be a habit, something else has to go. Now, the biggest benefit is control and, like I said, declutter, right? So you're going to prevent overspending and you're going to prevent lifestyle creep without needing a super strict budget. Another pro is awareness. You're forced to pause and ask if the new thing that you're actually buying is worth replacing the same thing that you might already have. And the biggest downside here is friction, because if you're quote unquote trying to enjoy your life, right, it can feel very restrictive at first, especially if you're used to saying yes to every purchase you make and not really thinking out every purchase you make. But over time, it builds discipline. It makes you very intentional with your purchases, which is one of the best things you can do for yourself. So for me, this is going to be an easy A tier thing. If you can apply this to your life, you'll notice that the clutter is going to go down and you might be a little bit more intentional with where your money goes and what things you actually buy. Next up on the list is the New Year's resolution of starting to journal. And journaling, just takes a few minutes every day, right? It's something that you can get your thoughts on a piece of paper, your goals on a piece of paper, maybe the wins even, or also just what you're struggling with. And the biggest benefit of journaling is just clarity of your mind and your thoughts. When things live in your head, they feel very overwhelming. And when you write them down and get them on a piece of paper, they become very manageable because you can see everything. And another pro here with journaling is it just helps you spot patterns in your day-to-day life with habits, spending, or mindset, right? These are things that you might normally ignore, but when you see them on a piece of paper, it makes it very hard to ignore them. You start, seeing these different trends. Now, the downside with journaling is consistency, right? It's very hard. Believe it or not, it's very hard to journal for 5 minutes a day. A lot of people, their life gets in the way. They say they're too busy. They start getting on social media and they just never journal. So it is hard to stay consistent with journaling. But if you can do it, I think it can help you in a lot of different aspects of your life. And when it's simple, just kind of like everything else, when it's simple and consistent, journaling becomes a very powerful kind of self-check tool to kind of keep yourself in line. Now, I do think it's a very good thing to implement in your life, but I'm going to put in the B tier, right? I think it's good, but I don't think journaling at the end of the day is life-changing. I know there's a lot of people that are very successful and do very well for themselves, and they don't journal. So I don't think it's life-changing, but it's definitely a good thing to implement in your life if you want to start doing it. Next up on the list is manifesting wealth. So if you're going to go into the new year thinking this is going to be the year where I manifest getting rich, right? I think people misunderstand this a little bit. Manifesting wealth is the idea that thinking positively or visualizing money will somehow bring it into your life. And while I do think it's good to have a good mindset towards money and towards your future, I think the downside with this is that manifesting wealth doesn't pay the bills, right? Visualization is nothing without action in place, without discipline in place, or just systems in place that you can use to actually create results. And for example, like I said, I think having a good mindset on, your money, your finances, your outlook on life is definitely a great thing to have. But at the end of the day, you yourself are going to have to take action. If I sit here and I, sit in front of $100 bill and I tell myself every single day that I'm going to see more of these in my life, I'm not. I have to take action to actually see more money at the end of the day. So for me, in my opinion, money responds to value, it responds to effort, and money responds to consistency, not the thoughts you have on those things. So I think manifesting wealth is an F tier thing. I think it's good to have a positive outlook on things, but at the end of the day, you can only manifest so much before you actually have to take action in your life and go get that money yourself, or go get that raise yourself, or just go be positive yourself. Next up on the list is reading daily. Now, look, I'm a millennial. I spend a lot of time not reading and more so on like social media or YouTube. But I think I have a little bit of a different outlook on this than some people traditionally, because I actually don't think reading daily is as productive as it seems. And I'll tell you why. I've read a lot of like self-help books. I've read a lot of financial books. And in my opinion, you see a lot of overlap, right? So you can only read like so many books before you're like, I kind of know this topic really well. You can only read so many self-help books before you kind of see a pattern and you realize there's certain things in your life that you need to change. So I think reading daily can be a good habit, but I don't think it's as productive as people make it out to be. Now, I will say, like, for example, when it comes to investing, there's a lot of investing books, but I've read some of them, and I'll be honest with you guys, I've learned more about investing through YouTube than I have had through any books that I've ever read. Once again, I've read a lot of self-help books, and at the end of the day, I've read maybe 10 self-help books. There's maybe 2 that have actually changed how I see life. So I think reading daily can be a good habit, but I'm actually going to put in the C tier. I think it looks productive, but usually at the end of the day, I usually don't think it's as productive as people make it out to be. I think there's better ways you can spend your time instead of reading that can be more productive towards your financial goals or your health goals in general. Next up is auditing your subscriptions. Now, you guys know we are in the day and age that every single thing has a subscription. Even, walking your dog is probably going to have a subscription soon. And auditing your subscriptions, basically what that means, if you don't know, is just going through your subscriptions and cutting the things out that you don't need anymore, or cutting the things out that might overlap, or just what you're not actually using. And the biggest pro, just like eliminating financial leak, is instantaneous savings. Like, you're basically going to give yourself a quick raise by auditing some of these subscriptions, because I promise you, you do not need the 12 to 15 subscriptions that you probably have. And you can free up money immediately without changing any of your income or lifestyle at all. Another benefit is awareness. A lot of people don't realize how much they're actually spending on subscriptions until they sit down, they look at them all in one place, and they think what they can cut out. And the biggest downside with automating your subscriptions is that it's kind of a one-time win. And what I mean by that is, once you cancel what you don't use anymore, the savings don't keep increasing, right? Like, once you cancel it, you save yourself $20 a month, you're kind of done. And it also requires you to give yourself a reality check. There's some people that have plus 10 subscriptions that they might not have used in months, but they'll still make excuses on why they need them. And you probably don't need them, but you have to sit down with yourself and be honest with yourself. And that's hard for a lot of people. So look, auditing your subscriptions, it's simple, it's high impact for your finances, and it's something that you could pause this video right now and start doing today, right? Like, you don't need to let this creep into the new year. This is something you can do January 1st and cut out, 20 to 30% of your subscriptions. So for that reason, I'm putting auditing your subscriptions in A tier, I think this is super beneficial for your finances and something that honestly everyone should do. Whether you care about your finances or not, this is just something you should do. Next up is quitting bad habits. Now, I would say if you could quit 1 to maybe 2 bad habits that are clearly holding you back, that would be an immediate win. Now, we might have more than 1 or 2 bad habits, but once again, cutting out too many things at once can be way too hard. So I would say if you can focus on 1 or 2 bad habits that you know are holding you back, it'd be a great start for the new year. And the biggest pro here is leverage, right? Removing a bad habit often creates more progress than adding a new good one. So less doom scrolling, less impulse spending, less late night out, maybe you smoke, maybe you goon, whatever it might be, right? All that stuff can add up in a negative way and can add up very quickly, right? Another benefit is the energy that you save from quitting bad habits. Bad habits will drain you of time, they will drain you of energy, and they will drain you of money. So when you cut all those things out, you are instantly giving yourself a raise to your energy, your motivation, your discipline, your consistency, all of those. And you become more confident in yourself. That's one of the best things, because if you can tell yourself like, this is the year I quit smoking, and you actually quit smoking, at that point you feel more confident about the decisions you make. You feel better about yourself. So not only does it impact every single part of your life in a good way, but also just makes you like yourself more, which is another, one of the best things you can do for yourself as well. Now, the hard part is obviously you can't remove a habit with the snap of your fingers. Like, it's a habit. It's hard. It takes time. You might fail. You might relapse, and that's okay, right? That comes with quitting bad habits. No one can go cold turkey and just instantly be, amazing at quitting bad habits. So it is something that takes time. It is something that's hard, and it is something that's going to test you as you try to do this. But if you can quit 1 to 2 bad habits that you know are holding you back, I mean, this is just an S tier, right? Like, I'm all for quitting bad habits. I think people, if you can quit a bad habit, I mean, props to you, right? Like, you're going to boost yourself up in life, and it's going to make your life a little bit easier. Next up on the list is moving daily. Now, this is a little bit of a toned down version from having like the workout and eating plan, because look, if you don't have a workout or eating plan, or you don't want to make one, as long as you can just move on a daily basis, like, we're humans. We need to be able to move, right? Like, I remember, I'll tell you guys a story. Like, I remember when I was working as a cashier, and this guy, he was like a reoccurring customer. This dude was like 80 years old, and he just looked like he was in the best shape of his life, like good skin, like in shape, always happy. And I remember asking him, like, I was like, because once again, he was a kind of a reoccurring customer, and I'm like, how are you 80 years old and you're like this happy, this in shape? And he literally said all he does every single day of his life since he was like 40 years old is just walk a mile. And like, literally by walking a mile, breathing fresh air, touching grass, whatever you want to call it, it literally makes your life so much better. So if you don't want to create a workout plan or eating plan, as long as you can just move daily, walk a mile, get out, go for a stroll, whatever, it doesn't have to be intense. Just get your body moving, get outside, be in fresh air. This is very beneficial for anyone in life. And this is definitely something that if you tend to be inside too much or tend to be, quote unquote lazy, adding this to your New Year's resolution is something that I would highly recommend. Next up is going to be the 3 skill stack for your job. And what this is, if you've never heard of this before, it's basically focusing on 3 complementary skills that make you more valuable at work instead of trying to be perfect at one thing. And the biggest pro here is when you stack skills. For example, this can be like communication, technical ability, and problem solving. You become harder to replace and way easier to promote. And look, I work in a corporate setting. It's no secret that if you work on skills, you're obviously not going to you can't just work on a skill or work on 3 skills and go to your manager and say, okay, give me a raise. I have these 3 skills. But like, especially with the era of LinkedIn and like how everyone posts their skills online and new certificates, like these will make you more valuable at work. Like, I know for me, when like it's slow at work, higher up management literally tells us to work on skills. They'll literally say, like, if you're slow at work or you don't have much to do, go on learning paths on websites and learn new skills, because it does make you more valuable at work. And like I said, it might not be instant return on investment for you. You're like I said, like, you're not going to get a raise overnight from your manager by learning a new skill, but it just makes you way harder to replace, and it makes you way more valuable at work. And that matters a lot, especially if you're in a corporate setting or anything of that nature. So skill stacking 3 complementary skills is very beneficial for your finances and just Also, it's just good to learn new skills. Next up on the list is waiting for the perfect moment to do anything. Now, this can be investing, this can be budgeting, this can be saving, this can be when you start your New Year's resolutions. Too many people, and I'm guilty of it too, we wait for the perfect moment. And waiting for the perfect moment is like the final boss of procrastination. Like, you tell yourself you're going to wait to start investing, or you're going to tell yourself like, oh, once I make X amount of money a week, I'll start saving my money. Or once I make, once I get my bonus, I'll start, investing more. Whatever it might be, whatever you want to wait for. It can be for working out, it can be for personal goals, it can be for literally any goal. Waiting too long to do anything is just holding you back in life way too much. And once again, I'm guilty of it too. It happens to a lot of people where we just wait too long to take any action. So this, in my opinion, is just an automatic F tier, right? If you're waiting to take any action that you know is going to make your life better, whether it's creating a workout plan, whether it's, creating an eating plan, whether it's just getting up and going for a walk or stacking skills or saving or investing, stop waiting. With the new year, this is the time you actually take action on the things that you actually want to do. Next on the list is locking in good habits. Now, this can be any habit that you see as a good habit. Usually for me, I like to think of like discipline, consistency, stuff like that. And the biggest pro here is once a habit's locked in, it pretty much runs on autopilot, right? That's the thing with habits, is if you can get them to the point where they self-serve themselves in your life, you never really have to think about it. You kind of just do it. And this frees up a lot of mental energy for bigger goals. And the other benefit with this is you stop relying on motivation, right? You start seeing the habit as just part of who you are rather than something you're working on. Now, the downside with locking in some habits is it's just boredom, right? Like locked in habits aren't exciting. They're repetitive, and that's where a lot of people lose interest. Like, let's be honest, a lot of people don't see discipline as exciting. They see it as restrictive. They see it as it could even hold them back, when in my opinion, discipline is one of the best habits that you can implement in your life. And you have to protect good habits. Little things can throw habits out the window, whether it's, life gets a little bit busy, or, you're around bad influences, whatever it might be. You have to be very protective with the habits that you work so hard on trying to gain. But if you can lock in habits early, or you can just get to the point where they're running themselves in your life and you're not thinking about it, especially stuff like, once again, discipline and consistency and just all those other types of habits, this just makes your life easier at the end of the day. It's hard. It's not easy. This is probably one of the hardest things to do on the list. But if you can do this in the new year and this is one of your resolutions, this by far is something that you can achieve. And if you do achieve it, it'll make your life 10 times easier. Next up on the list is trying to do everything at once. And this is pretty self-explanatory. Everything I've mentioned on this list, whether it's eliminating financial leaks or increasing your income or meal prepping or overplanning, if you try to do every single little thing at once, you're going to fail. You have to be very intentional with what you do. That's why when it comes to eliminating financial leaks, I said, just pick one. Or when it comes to quitting bad habits, maybe pick one or two, or skill stacking. You have to be very intentional with what you do. And the more you overcomplicate a lot of these things, the harder it's going to be to actually do them. And you'll see a lot of people, they get very motivated, right? So what they'll do is they'll try to do everything at once. They're like, okay, next week, I'm going to wake up at 5 in the morning. I'm going to meal prep. Then I'm going to go for a walk. Then I'm going to work on some skills. Then I'm going to create a budget. And then I'm going to sit down and I'm going to build my emergency fund. And while I'm building my emergency fund, I'm going to journal. And then after I'm done journaling, I'm going to read 5 pages. And by like 1 p.m., they're like burnt out and they're eating a Twix bar on the couch. Like it doesn't work like that. So if you try to do everything at once, it's just an F tier. Be very intentional about what you decide to do this new year, whether it's the resolutions or goals you put in place, and I promise you it'll be easier than trying to do everything at once. Next up on the list is just over consuming. And this is something that I struggled with in 2024 and I, in my opinion, got a lot better with in 2025. Look, I used to consume so much content, whether it was self-help content or financial content or food content, whatever it might be. I would sit there for hours on my phone every single day. I think I racked up a screen time of like 11 hours a day, and I would just consume and I would consume and I would consume. At some point, you have to take action. And you'll notice that's kind of like a reoccurring trend with a lot of these, where you can always do so much, but at some point, you have to take action in your life. So, for example, if you are, over consuming financial content to learn about creating a budget, at some day, look, you can only watch so many videos on creating a budget before you're an expert on it. You kind of just have to create a budget and then fail. And if you fail, it's just going to make you better. Or if you're trying to invest, right? You can watch thousands of videos on investing before you feel confident. At some point, you're just going to have to start investing your money. So over consuming is an F tier. It can become, it gives you, once again, it gives you that illusion of progress. You're like, oh man, I'm learning so much. Like, for example, like, let me be honest with you guys. When I was consuming a lot of self-help content, that's how I felt, where it's like, man, I'm learning so much about self-help and self-progress, but I wasn't being a better person. I wasn't becoming a better person. I was just consuming content on it, but not actually applying it to my life. So I stopped consuming content on self-help and I just tried to be a better person. And through that, I've become a better person. So hopefully that makes sense. But at the end of the day, if you overconsume, this is the year where you stop overconsuming and you actually start applying things that you want to do to your life. Next up on the list is automating your finances. Now, this is something I'm a huge supporter of. I think anything you can automate in your life is already a win, but especially your finances. Look, I have always said that I hate saving money. I hate investing. I hate all that stuff because I hate manually doing it and seeing the money leave my account. And it's a very weird mental game because even though I take $1,000 out of my checking account and I put it in an investing account, that doesn't mean I lose money. But now that my money's spread out, I feel like I have less money. That's at least how it works in my head. So the easiest thing for me to do, so I don't have to do anything manually, is just automate my finances. Every single time I get paid, all my money gets automated instantly. Every time I get paid, 20% of my paycheck goes to my 401k. I don't have to touch any buttons. 10% of my paycheck goes straight to a savings account. I don't have to touch any buttons. $25 a day, I buy the S&P 500. I don't have to touch any buttons. $25 a day, I buy Bitcoin. I don't have to touch any buttons. Literally everything self-serves itself and is automated. And that has made my financial progress skyrocket. Because I'll be honest with you guys, if I wasn't automating these things, I probably wouldn't be investing as much as I do. I wouldn't be investing every day, or I wouldn't be saving every day. So automating your finances is by far an S tier. It's one of the best things that you can do for your finances, for your investing, just anything you do in life. If you can automate it, stress goes down and the ease of it just goes way up. Now, I will say actually, one downside to automating your finances is that be careful when you automate finances, because if you get a little too aggressive and you might, over automate, then at that point you might pull too much money out of your account. So just make sure you're doing it in, the correct way that makes sense for your finances. But I promise you, this is one of those things that if you can implement, man, it helps so much. Next up on the list is setting vague goals. Now, you've probably heard friends like this, or maybe you've done something like this, or family members, but look, January 1st comes around and they're going to say, okay, I'm going to work out more. And that's the goal. And this is just F tier. I'm going to tell you guys where it's at already so I can kind of give context, but it's just an illusion of progress because people are going to do that, right? January 1st is going to come around. They're going to say, I'm going to eat healthier. And that's their whole goal. It doesn't help you at all. Like, having a goal like that won't do anything for you because you have nothing to actually judge yourself on. So think about this. Instead of saying, I'm going to work out more and leaving that as your goal, if you can say, I'm going to work out 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 5 p.m. every single day at my local gym. That's a goal that you can actually track. It gives you context behind the goal and it makes it way harder to actually skip out on doing that goal. For example, eating healthier. A lot of people tell themselves, I'm just going to eat healthier this year. And then they never eat healthier, and by January 2nd, they're in the McDonald's drive-thru. But it's because you have to set a goal like every single night I'm going to cook. And I'm going to go to the store Sunday night. I'm going to buy everything I need for the week. And Monday night's going to be chicken and rice. Tuesday night's going to be fish and spinach. And you see what I'm saying. So having specific SMART goals are going to help you way more, in your realm of progress than having vague goals. So if you have vague goals, this is an F tier. It's an illusion of progress. It's procrastination. You're not actually doing anything for your life. Your goals need to be very specific when it comes to stuff you actually want to achieve. Next up on the list is maxing your Roth IRA or 401k. Now, this is obviously a financial goal. This is one of those things that is very beneficial. If you can max your Roth IRA or your 401k, it helps a lot because your Roth IRA and your 401k, these are tax advantage accounts. So the more money that you can put in these accounts on a yearly basis, the better tax advantages you're going to see as the years progress. Now, the trick with a Roth IRA and a 401k is you might not have the funds to actually max these things. For me as a 25-year-old, I can put $7,000 every year into my Roth IRA. Some people at this age don't have $7,000 a year to invest, but that's okay because as long as you can get $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 in there, that's still progress. So at the end of the day, I don't think maxing your Roth IRA or 401k is something you need to do, but I do think take advantage of the taxes and to, get your money rolling through compound interest. I think it's something that's in the A tier. I think if you can aim to do this, it'd be great, but it's definitely something you don't need to max out in order to be financially on top. Like in 2024, I only put $3,000 in my Roth IRA. So it's just something you kind of have to go through, see how your finances stack up and, make a decision based off that. Next on the list is extreme daily schedules. Now, I hope 2026 is the year that extreme daily schedules just get destroyed on social media and just people stop watching this type of content. I don't understand the purpose of it, in my opinion. I don't understand people watching people wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and post stuff like this. I get it's funny, but there's people actually out there that believe that they need to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, take an ice cold shower, run 16 miles, do jumping jacks with bananas attached to their face. And then at that point it's 5 o'clock and then they can start reading 100 pages. I will never understand that. This adds nothing to your life. It makes life hard. It's stupid. It's only funny if you're making money off of it because people watch it on social media. But if you're actually at home doing these things and not making content off of it, you're actually thinking this is benefiting you, this is not going to benefit you. And if you're someone who's leading into the new year thinking this is the year where I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and I take an ice bath and then I, blindfold myself and walk across the street to, work on my agility, it's not the year, bro. Don't do this stuff. Extreme daily schedules, F tier. This is stupid in my opinion. Don't do this. And last on the list is hustle culture routines. So look, this has pretty much been exposed at this point, but hustle culture, pushes a lot of people to take action, right? And stop being passive, stop being beta. You need to be the alpha. You need to walk into a room with a suit on and you need to ask for $100,000 a year. The likelihood that any of this actually works for you is extremely low. I'm also going to group in people selling courses. If you think you're going to this is the year where you're going to buy someone's course and learn something from it, please don't. There's so much free stuff you can learn online without buying someone's course. It's just the hustle culture routines, they don't take you anywhere in life. And the problem too is not only do they promote being this annoying person, a lot of hustle culture routines ignore sleep, they ignore health, they ignore sustainability in your life, which are the same things that allow true long-term progress. So short bursts of certain hustle things can work, like getting a quick side hustle that makes you $500. Sure, of course, that's going to work. But when you're in this grind culture that's not actually taking you anywhere in life, but it looks extremely productive, this is just something that's not realistic anymore, in my opinion, and honestly should have never been realistic. I truly believe that if you can just implement anything from the A tier to the S tier, you're going to be way more ahead in life than anyone who's following, extreme daily schedules and hustle culture stuff. So obvious F tier here as for this one as well. Because look, if you're thinking about following hustle culture, or you think about this is the year I'm going to hustle, I'm going to put my head down and this, it's probably not going to pan out either. Don't stress yourself over stuff like this. Prioritize your health, prioritize your finances. Don't prioritize hustling every 5 seconds of the day and not resting at all. So that is my tier list for the financial and personal New Year's resolutions. Now, I know some of these aren't really true New Year's resolutions, but they're things that people might implement into their lives at the beginning of the year. And look, not everything on this list is exciting, and that's kind of the point, right? The habits that actually change your life and the financial systems that actually change your life and put you ahead are usually some of the most boring ones. And you don't need to pick everything at once. I'm not telling you that this should be an outline for your New Year's resolutions, but if there's one or two things that you resonate or you really like, I'd highly, recommend putting those a part of your New Year's resolutions or working on those at the beginning of the year. And And once again, the main point is progress usually does not come from motivation or perfect timing. It comes from systems that you can actually stick to and you can actually implement in your life. So let me know in the comments, which New Year's resolutions you're locking into this year, what you're working on this year, what you agree with, what you don't agree with. Look, I wish you all the best in 2026. I hope you guys have a great new year. You guys stay safe, celebrate it well, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Have a good day.